It's 10 o'clock, so we'll make a start to October's Cabinet meeting. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting? The first item is apologies for absence.
We have received apologies, Chair, from Councillor Sean Davies and Councillor Shirley Reynolds.
Thank you very much. Item 2, declaration of interest. I've got to declare an interest on the Marches Local Enterprise Partnership and same for Lee Carter, which we will leave the room. So in view of that, we'll change the items around on the agenda, that 10 becomes 11 and 11 becomes 10, because we have to leave the room at that point. Okie dokie. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. They agreed, moved by Councillor Watling, seconded. Councillor Carrera, all in favour? Thank you very much. I don't have to sign them there, no. Okay, there's no leaders' announcements from me. He hasn't told me anything to announce, because he's not here. So we'll go straight to item 5, Telford Land Deal update.
Thank you, Richard. Cabinet will be aware of the importance of the land deal and the way it's underpinned a lot of our economic development push over the last 10 years or so. Effectively, the deal has been about unlocking primarily brownfield sites across Telford and Wrekin in a unique partnership with Homes England and the Marches Local Enterprise Partnership. The deal, alongside the Council's Invest Telford Business Pledge and the Council's ability to provide land, build and lease bespoke properties and offer a full turnkey solution funded through its growth fund, continues to drive investment in Telford and Wrekin. So just a whistle stop through the last 8 years of the deal. Cumulatively, it's delivered the sale of a total of 32 commercial sites. It's delivered employment floor space of over 1.7 million square foot and over 2,200 new jobs, many in engineering and manufacturing, added skilled jobs opportunities for the borough's communities. It's also seen the sale of 24 sites for residential development and has delivered over 1,500 new homes, nearly 700 of which have been affordable. As is set out in the report, you'll see a wide range of success stories, including commercial development at T54, Horton Wood West, and that's driven occupation by businesses including Magna, Rosewood Pet Products, DHL, as well as a number of smaller businesses that have been setting up or growing at Leasows Court. That development at Leasows Court on its own was the first start-up business development in Telford and Wrekin for over 25 years. It's also seen the completion of Nye Park Phase 1 and the recently completed Orchard Business Park. These businesses are making a significant impact in our communities with a range of jobs from apprenticeships to management roles, and there are examples within the report, including apprentice Lewis from Telford, who worked for the CEL group at Horton Wood West. As part of the Telford land deal, the Council has taken ownership of all residential non-developable land from Homes England. This has provided additional opportunity to substantially enhance and grow the borough's provision of the green network and local nature reserves, alongside providing support to a range of programmes including the Great Crested New District Licensing Scheme, carbon offsetting and biodiversity net gain. This has been a fantastic success story for Telford and Wrekin. I'd like to pay credit to the officers who've played a massive role in delivering this scheme along with Homes England. That's James, Daney, Sheila and the team who've played a massive part in that. And I also hope that everyone recognises the importance this has had in providing good quality homes and good quality jobs to the residents of Telford and Wrekin, and it's something that we'll be committed to going forward for a long time to come. I'd like to move the recommendations.
Thank you very much. As a seconder, Councillor Watling, do you want to speak as well?
Yeah. Just, I think it's a good report. This is exactly what local authorities have had to do since funding changes has changed. Look at the way we work with our partners to bring income into Telford and Wrekin, and this was, I'm not going to say it's a magic bullet, James, but it's one of those things that you know when you're looking at trying to get a project like this off the ground, that it's going to have lots of different things that are positive for the local community. And if you look at the, as you say, the safer homes, the better jobs, the income that's coming into the council because of council tax, because of those things as well, and you know, these are all things that we've had to think differently about when we're trying to deal with the financial issues that we've got as a council at the moment. And this project has been a really good piece of work and a model, I think, for other local authorities to be working on.
Thank you. Yeah, I do welcome this. I think it'll have a really positive impact on people's health and well-being across the borough. As you know, it'll address social inequalities. It's about infrastructure, people being able to have homes, have jobs, and get out into their communities and do things. Really important. So I really welcome this. Anything that improves health and well-being, I always welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
Yeah, again, I want to echo my colleagues' comments. It's a really good positive for the borough, and as my colleague Paul Walling said, it's a flagship for other councils to look at. For the wider community, it's a positive because we have a diverse community in the borough, so it's a positive for everyone in the community.
Thank you, Leader, Deputy Leader. Yeah, completely welcome this report. I think it is a brilliant deal that was set up quite some time ago. I just think, you know, this is one of those things that really does deliver for people across the area, so it's something that I really support. You know, the business side of things, the higher skilled jobs, growth, security, and just sort of the extra money that this brings into the borough. This really does make a difference on far more of a scale than we realise. It's not just sort of using land, it is using that land to bring other services and pay for those services. And I just love the example of the apprenticeship within this with Lewis doing his apprenticeship in one of these new businesses that's been bought through the land deal. So I think it's it just shows that with deals like this, you can provide everything that somebody needs in this borough. So from a good stable home to really good skills opportunities to good jobs. So I really welcome it.
Thank you. Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. It's well done to all those involved. I'm sure there's a lot of councillors and officers, past and present, that have worked on the success of this deal, and they should all take credit for what it's done for the borough. The thousands of jobs, homes, and let's not forget that the income generated continues to be reinvested and helps to protect frontline services year on year.
Thank you, Nathan. Is there any comments from the group leaders? Yeah, Andrew?
Yeah, quickly, I just wondered if that was a Freudian slip with you, Eileen, referring to him as a leader. Perhaps you could fill us in on that. The other thing that struck me immediately was the thought of great crested newts lining up to get licences, which did make me think a bit. No, I think the scheme itself and partnership working is so important. It's obviously delivered a lot, certainly around employment and housing. I think it's been extremely good for the borough and extremely good for this council.
Yeah, I welcome the report. As people may not remember, this obviously was a residual of land left over almost from the Telford Development Corporation days, and it's where a government body was struggling to finish the job off, and it's great that a government has come to a local authority to help them with that innovatively. And I welcome all the officers with all the hard work that they have to put into this to get it up and running. I'm also mindful of the fact that jobs are important, houses are important, but being in Telford, we've made sure that the green and the environment is important as well. And not all that land has gone to employment. Pockets have become green spaces out with nature reserves. So the mixture's been good. Well done.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, I think it's a great report. I remember when it first started. You know, the positives, as this report says, there's real life stories in there, real business stories in there, and it brings them to life. And when you think, you know, there's 1,500 homes, which means people have got secure tenure, you know, a lot of affordable homes there as well being delivered, plus these 2,253 jobs. That's, you know, real jobs for real workers, and as Lee said, they're skilled jobs as well, which we welcome into the borough. So it's a great report, but the bonus is, as Paul said, is that this money helps the council deliver services, you know, care packages, children in care, all helping support, you know, the cuts that we've had to make. This is now starting to fill those gaps, and that's why long may it continue, because it is really positive for the council. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Thank you very much. So you again, Lee, Telford Growth Fund update.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for the nice comments about the land deal. Because if you like the land deal, you have to support the growth fund as well, because the Telford Growth Fund has been instrumental in terms of making the Telford land deal work. It's been a fund that's been about giving the council the ability to provide land, build, lease bespoke properties and offer a full turnkey solution funded through this fund. A classic example of that is ATW Couriers, where the fund has been used to enable them to move into a new premises but release their former premises for development as well. So that's exactly how it works. Again, it's been instrumental in attracting new business, including 24 units at Horton Wood, known as the Orchard Business Park. And that's a high quality estate that's actually quite green in terms of its credentials. All of those units have got the benefit of solar panels and electric vehicle charging points. It's, as you touched on in the last one, Bill, it is about homes and jobs, but the Growth Fund has also enabled us to think about skills as well. And part of looking forward at further allocations from this fund, we'll see some funding for that skills hub that will go into Station Quarter. So if we think about that journey of a young person in Telford and Wrekin now who can grow up, go to a good quality school that was built by this administration, can then go on to college, a good quality college, and a skills hub, learn at a skills hub that was funded in part by this administration, who can then go to work in or go on to university at Harper Adams and then get a job at Nye Park, which was funded through this fund. That's a fantastic journey, and all with the handprint of this authority and this administration throughout it, and all with the aim of benefiting residents and enabling them to live and benefit from a thriving economy in Telford and Wrekin without actually having to move away from the town during their lifetime. I think it's really, really powerful and a powerful testament of the Growth Fund and the land deal. Again, Councillor England, Councillor Watling touched on in the last report that there's also another tranche to this, that the income generated that we've been able to generate from extra business rates, but also attracting new businesses in, and that extra business investment has been instrumental in helping us avoid the worst of the cuts that we'd have had to make if we hadn't have taken the radical decision to put in place something like the Telford Growth Fund. So I'd like, this report is for noting, and I hope Cabinet support it.
Thank you, Lee. So seconder, Councillor Mata, anyone want to comment on the report?
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. It's another good news item. Well done to all those involved. I was lucky enough in the last few weeks to go and visit Horton Wood and the Newport developments. Units are first class. The layout of the parks are very nice, and they're getting snapped up quite quickly by local and, more importantly, international businesses as well, which is great to see. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, I think, you know, as Lee said, the land, if you like the land deal, you should like the Growth Fund, because that investment is delivering jobs, you know, and it's really good to see businesses being attracted to Telford. We all know why we live here, and it's nice to see other people coming to move and live here as well, because this is attracting good businesses to Telford, like Magna and other people. And as Lee says, and the previous report, the money is helpful in delivering our services to residents, so that's a bonus. Comment, Bill?
Yeah, I would like to say another big well done to the authority on this one. Some people worry and some people make a lot of store about borrowing, but sometimes you need to borrow to invest. Local authorities haven't got a magic pot of cash to use, and when you borrow and invest intelligently, which I think this authority has, in industrial units, and indeed in the housing as well that we've done through New Place, and you get a return on that, and you make sure you're getting a commercial return, you're hitting all sorts of things. Very often people, and Telford's typical of this, a lot of industry wouldn't have come in had the TDC not been set up, and had the government originally not put the infrastructure in, the frameworks, the funding to say, come here, we'll help you set up. Businesses like to make a profit and like to have the certainty that they're going to make a profit. And if they know that a local authority is there in part to help with that process and help with all that, it attracts people in. Not only is that, we're making money out of doing it. And as you all know, with the government grants cut by the government, all local authorities have had to try and look at other opportunities to try and make some money. And we've made money out of this, intelligently, but also in providing jobs. So it's a very well done for everyone in the local authority with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Andrew, can you comment?
Very briefly, certainly on providing schools, it was touched on the schools that have been provided by this administration. If you remember, we did manage to keep building schools for the future in place, where we did a lot of development around schools. And one of the few authorities to actually succeed in doing that. Touching on the side of it with skills and apprenticeships, I think they're extremely important. I did an engineering apprenticeship at GK and Sankey back in the day, which at that time was a very good apprenticeship, and it prepares you for all sorts of future employment, disciplines and everything else. So I think that side of it is absolutely essential. And as Lee said, the two are linked, and I think the outcomes from that have been extremely good.
Report's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Thank you very much. Item 7, the draft local plan. That's me. Glasses on. It's never a short straw. As we are all aware, the existing Telford and Wrekin local plan was adopted in 2018, and the government requires all councils to review and update plans every 5 years from adoption. Failure to do so would result in an out-of-date plan and risk both unplanned speculative development across the borough. As they have made clear to all local planning authorities that they, the government, can take direct control of the process where councils delay plan making. We have always taken a proactive, robust and responsible approach to planning for the future needs of our borough. This is a draft plan for consultation that is to meet the needs of both our residents and businesses up to 2040. We are in a strong position with over half the homes required for the 20-year plan period already with planning permission or already being built. On this basis, the assessed need for our borough for the next 20 years would require only 8,820 additional homes, or the equivalent of 441 new homes per year. But more importantly, our plan, which of course reflects us as residents and our families' needs, aims to deliver more affordable homes that are needed across a range of tenures, including rented, shared ownership and the low-cost market housing. It will, like plans before, be based not just on those coming into our borough to live or new companies, but also meet the needs for our children, making sure they too share in the success of our borough and can bring their own families up here with good transport links, school places and good affordable and sustainable homes to live in. Good skilled jobs provided by those companies that seeks to come and do business here, but also those businesses already here who want to expand and grow. It will also include homes that meet a range of accommodation needs, including schemes for extra care, dementia care, adapted properties, bungalows and retirement living. Homes we all need as we get older too. And of course, as I've mentioned, improving the lives and outcomes of the borough's residents is at the heart of this plan. To reiterate, it will secure more affordable homes, providing accommodation for key workers and young families, supporting older people to live independently at homes in their communities for longer, reducing residents' living costs with more energy efficient and sustainable homes. The plan will also lead to the creation of more jobs through the allocation of new employment land. It will help sustain our villages, supporting the viability of local schools and community services, and it will protect and enhance our public accessible green spaces, something this administration is proud of on our legacy of our green guarantee sites and local nature reserves, more and more delivered since 2011 than ever before. This is a plan-led approach to growth and will be used to help our partners like the NHS and police plan effectively for their services over the longer term and help us to secure investment to other public services such as primary and secondary schools, GPs, parks and open spaces and improved transport infrastructure. I will reiterate this too. This draft plan is a consultation. The purpose of this report is to seek approval to launch the consultation. The period for this draft plan consultation will be from the 25th of October until the 12th of January 2024, and this is to ensure that as many people as possible can comment. We are seeking genuine views from the public and key stakeholders on the proposed new planning policies that will shape development to 2040. The proposed housing and employment sites across the borough, including the 3 potential areas of extension to Telford. Following this period of consultation, we will consider all the comments received and make revisions to the plan before undertaking a further round of consultation and then submitting the plan for consideration by a government-appointed inspector. I therefore move the recommendations for approval. The seconder? Seconded, Carolyn?
Yeah, I mean, I think no disrespect to the planners in the room, but planning can also always seem kind of a bit, you know, to the public, it's a bit of a dry subject, and local plans can be quite hard documents to try and get into. It's not the most You know, that's sort of one of those things that I suppose naturally lends itself to lots of engagement. But as a local authority, it's probably one of the most important things we do, isn't it? You know, we are leaders of place. We shape the place that our borough, and you know, the local plan really kind of underpins the previous two reports and what we're able to do with you know, the growth fund, the land deal, because that sets out where we're going to actually deliver housing, where we're going to deliver employment, where we're going to protect green spaces. So it's absolutely critical that we get this right. And I think we've got a brilliant track record, and whilst this is a draft, I think there's some really good stuff in there. Obviously, I'm very pleased that we are pulling into policy the supplementary planning document that we previously agreed on in terms of climate change, and trying to really push for much more sustainable house building, really raising the standard of the quality of housing so that it is low cost, it is low carbon, it's low energy demand, but also that protection of green space, looking to expand our green network and protect more of the green space that we know matters so much to our residents. So, I think my message really to our residents and to our partners is get involved. It just really have a look at this document and share your views on it so that we make sure we get this right for the future of our borough.
Okay. Eileen?
Thank you, Deputy Leader. I really welcome this. I think consultation on documents as important as the local plan are so important, and I just think, I really do want to echo what Councillor Healy has just said about the more people that we can get involved in feeding into this local plan. It is a really good plan. I think there is some really strong messages in there around what we want for our area, the things that we need for our area. Everything is, there's nothing that isn't touched by the local plan. But just that consultation is so important, and I think the more people I think it's something that we tend to do very well, but I just think as many people as we can possibly get to feed into this, it's really important. So I welcome it. Thank you.
That's it. Lee?
Yeah, I'll just echo that point. Welcome the fact that we're doing this. There's some really good stuff in there, but ultimately this is a consultation. Now we're entering a consultation stage, and I think it's important to make clear that a consultation isn't a referendum. It's not a yes or no. This is a consultation about having an input, and we encourage as many people as possible, because we're actually committed to wanting to get this right, and we've got to get it right for a number of reasons, including about setting the direction, or setting our plan for government, so they know what our infrastructure requirements are, so they know how much money we need to invest into highways and other things, so that local health authorities know exactly how many doctors' surgeries we're going to need and how many dentists they need to provide. So I think it's positive from that perspective, but as I say, it's not a referendum this stage we're entering now. It's not a yes or no. Get involved because we want to get it right.
Thank you, Lee. Any comments from Bill?
Yeah, I think there's a number of points I'd like to make, so if your passions I'll keep it as simple as I can. I think the first thing is the consultation one. I think a briefing with officers, and I really welcome that. Thank you for that. And thank you for all the hard work you're doing on this. Sometimes reports brought forward aren't the most popular in the world by everybody, but I want to thank the officers for what the work they've done. Technically, people can't formally comment on this plan yet until the 25th of October, and that was made clear to me. And when they formally do engage with us, I've been told that you're going to have a lot more detail given to the plan that's currently in the public domain at the moment. There'll be diagrams, they'll be showing you more about what's going on. There'll be more detail to come out after the 25th. Also, the officers are going to, or the authorities are going to provide the links, portal links, online stuff so people can put the comments on, where to email it to or write it in. Nothing can be taken as a comment or a formal comment unless it's through those three means. So obviously after today's meeting, make public aware, because people will probably, shall we say, wanting to make their comments now, and in fact having seen some newspaper reports may have managed to make their comments over a week ago, but technically they can't. So I'm sure that we'll publicise that fact. The other point I want to make is that we were fortunate as an area that when we got significantly developed, there was a blueprint for us set by the government, whether the local people liked it or not at the time. But the one good thing it gave was particularly the infrastructure of roads. So very often the government could afford to say, right, we're going to build the roads with hardly any return and put the infrastructure in place for which Telford would then get built around. Now the reason I make that point is particularly at the moment on it is a consultation only, for the SUs, why they came up with the acronyms like this is beyond me. If I was named Sue, I'd feel as though a sustainable urban extension. Now my concern is on the first word, sustainability. Within that, the three of them, which are, for general public's knowledge, is north of Admaston, Shaw Birch and Apley, a band of housing and development across there, is ballpark 8,000 dwellings within that, as well as with other commercial sites as well. Now with that scale, my concern, one of my major concerns, is the road networks which supply those dwellings. As you know, that most people who live in Telford don't always necessarily work in Telford, and those who do need to get to where they've got to go to work. And as much as we'd love them all to use the bus, in that particular neck of the woods at the moment, things will change obviously, there aren't any buses virtually, very few. So we're trying to plan for this, a very sizable development which is on scale of the size of Wellington. It's not much different from the scale of Wellington, and it's only just a bit smaller than Lawley. Now I remember when we had this sort of scale of development in the past, we would have a lot more briefings, we would have plans, we would have meetings, and we'd say, well, what does it look like? And this would go on for years before it came out. So my concern is with the road network around the Shaw Birch Island, getting to the M54 basically, along the A5223 I think it is, Princess Royal Island, Trench Lock, dare I mention that awful word, Trench Lock Island. Those 8,000 dwellings and all that there have got to find somewhere to go. And I'm really concerned with those three SUs and ABC, that they're going to find that extremely difficult. Thank you.
Andrew?
Oh, thank you, Chairman. I think many people will, I'm sure, be absolutely horrified at the sheer scale of thousands of additional homes potentially built across the borough, and the effect that such a huge development will have on service provision and infrastructure already reeling under the weight of the past and current building. I mean, how on earth do you explain your plan when access to doctors, dentists, etc. is already under such pressure from an increase in population, due, as I say, to the local plan? Let alone our highways, as Bill has said, which could barely see which could see an additional 20,000 plus cars put onto our local roads, and they're not coping with the traffic levels at the moment. When we look at the proposed potential development sites, we see that the urban-rural boundary will almost certainly be breached. This is an absolute disaster, as not only will certain resources be sterilised under such a development, but once again this authority is looking to gobble up agricultural greenfield sites. In short, this draft plan is a charter to wreck the countryside, which makes up about 2/3 of our borough, which will be plundered and diminished. I also see no protection for our local communities, and that's something that's so important, that sense of identity and belonging. Historical boundaries and settlements form communities and should be protected, especially when other brownfield sites at the moment remain available. Flooding such settlements with hundreds of houses has led to fundamental changes in this borough, and this plan does nothing at all to provide further protection, but in fact I think it intends to accelerate that process. In short, I think this draft plan is a disaster waiting to happen for this borough, and the effects on this will be your responsibility. It's your plan, after all. I regard any substantial changes to planning policy nationally, whichever party they may emanate from, and it seems to me that all three major national parties are saying the same thing at the moment, I think it's short-sighted. And for a personal standpoint, I think it's unsupportable. I think parts of what are proposed here are unsustainable, and I would urge you to have a major rethink around the draft plan before it goes out to consultation.
Thanks for your comments. I must say that we've just stressed it is a consultation. We have to do this by government. Your government, Andrew, want us to do local plans, and we have to do what's best for our borough to meet those needs. Now, the 8,800 homes is across the borough, and the sites are there. So it's not just those 3 sustainable urban extensions, but it's across the borough on those sites. And there is more land put in the plan because we want to listen to people, so we can take some of that out, because we have to make sure it's a robust plan that goes to the plan inspector. And remember last time we had a local plan, Andrew, you were shouting figures out about housing numbers, and our figure was higher than what you said, but the plan inspector still didn't agree with us, and he put those up. So you can't just grab figures from the air to try and be political about it. This is a robust plan that we're putting forward to the people to consult on, and we will wait for those feedbacks on that consultation. As Bill says, there will be lots of ways people can feed in, and we will share those links and make sure this is in the libraries, and people will go out and speak to people when they want that extra information, because we want people to feed in. It's a plan for the future. And, we have to do it, but we want to do it in the best way possible for our residents' needs and for those future needs of our borough. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Very much. Item 8, the Arkle Magna Neighbourhood Plan. That's me again. Yeah. As we all know, with neighbourhood plans, the Arkle Magna Neighbourhood Plan has been developed by the Parish Council through consultation with local residents, stakeholders and feedback from the council officers. It reflects planning issues that are important to the parish and adds additional local detail to policies in the Telford and Wrekin local plan. We have been working closely with the parish, supporting them at all points of the process as part of our continued commitment to local decision making and local control. Following public consultation and independent examination, the plan went to referendum on the 7th September, and 76% of those who turned out voted for the plan. This report recommends Cabinet now make the Arkle Magna Neighbourhood Development Plan. Once made, the Neighbourhood Plan will become part of the Local Development Plan and be used to assess planning applications in the parish alongside the Telford and Wrekin Local Plan. This administration is committed to local decision making and local participation in the planning process, and this will be the 8th neighbourhood plan to come into force within the borough. This means 53,000 residents are now covered by made neighbourhood plans, with locally distinctive planning policies, a good comparison to our neighbours in Shropshire, which only have 5 neighbourhood plans in place. I therefore move the recommendations that the plan is made. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Healy. Any comments on this?
Yeah, I think this is a good example, isn't it, of the fact that, in my last comments I kind of alluded to the fact that perhaps there are some people who find planning something they're not particularly interested in, but, the people of Arkle Magna clearly very interested in planning, and, 76%, that's a fantastic engagement statistic, isn't it? So, I think it's really positive that we're working with communities to set plans for their local area so that people actually can set out what they want to see for their local area. So the local plan does that on a big scale, and then the neighbourhood plans bring that really right down to that local level. So this is about engagement. It is about working as a council with our communities in place shaping so that we get it right. So I think it's brilliant that we have, is it 9? Did you say 9 neighbourhood plans? So 8 to 9. So I think that's fantastic. And when you consider the size of our geographical area compared to our neighbouring authority, that's a big chunk of our borough covered by such plans, where we've got that really very specific local view of what they want to see with future development. So really welcome it, and well done to the people of Arkle Magna who engaged in the process.
Thank you, Karen. Any comments? Bill?
Yeah, I think it's great we have these where people have engaged in the process and the local plan, their own local plans. I'm just thinking though that with the it's spooky this, but with the item above, it may have to be re-looked again once we've had our local plan agreed, because it may affect a lot of these dwellings that I just talked about. Thousands of them will be in the actual Arkle Magna ward, which I don't think will be in the current plan. Thank you.
Sorry, I've got a mouthful of mint from Bill, which he gave me. I'm sure it was a tactical move. I was involved in local plan for Lillishall, so I'm well aware of the amount of work that has to take place to do it. It's a tremendous amount of work. And then, of course, following that, there's engagement with the local community and feeding. So I think to get a response of 76%, I think that's absolutely stunning. I think that's tremendous. but it does show, doesn't it, exactly the high level of thought that goes in locally now into planning issues.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably partially as a result of what's happened over the past 10, 15 years or more with planning and the growth of the town, that people are actively engaging, certainly within their local communities. And local communities, as I mentioned before, are very important, and it's something that we need to take due regard of.
As those comments has been moved and seconded. All in favour? So now we're on to item 9. Telford Week can becoming carbon neutral and plastic free. Karen.
Thank you. So July of this year had the hottest global temperatures on record. August, the second hottest on record. And last month was the hottest September since records began. Our climate is changing, and the graph in 3.3 shows that very clearly. And extreme weather events are already affecting people around the world, including here in our borough, and particularly in my ward with increased flooding. We're watching the river levels now. The International Panel on Climate Change in its 2023 analysis update finds that global temperatures will likely reach or surpass 1.5 degrees rise above pre-industrial levels sometime before 2040. The IPCC is clear that keeping within that 1.5 degrees, which is considered to be, we don't really want to go above that, does require deep reductions in greenhouse gas emissions in the near term, not in a few years' time, but now. And that's why I feel it's just so dangerous and so disappointing that the UK Prime Minister is delaying action on climate change. But here in Telford and Wrekin, we're not delaying. We continue to take action to reach net zero by 2030 and work with our partners across the borough to reduce carbon emissions. So I'm pleased to present this report showing that we've reduced our carbon emissions by 60% since declaring a climate emergency in 2019. The report details the actions taken in the last year. Some particular highlights are that we've seen a reduction in our gas usage following the installation of things like air source heat pump in Newport swimming pool. We've extended LED lighting and solar panels on more of our buildings, and that reduces the energy demand. We've increased our electrical vehicle fleet with 6 vans for our highways enforcement team, 2 electric minibuses for Arthur, which were funded through our municipal investment, so thank you to all the people who contributed to that, and an electric vehicle book delivery van for the library service. And right now work is happening on Oakengates Leisure Centre to install air source heat pump and thermal upgrades to the building, again to make that much more energy efficient. Now, Rishi Sunak's excuse for delaying action on climate change is that it's too expensive. But, I'm sorry, Rishi, you're wrong. It's too expensive not to act. This council has been supporting people to reduce their energy bills through improved insulation and retrofitting schemes on properties with the lowest energy efficiency. We've allocated £500,000 to future retrofit and energy efficiency products. We've distributed 5,000 LED bulbs to those in most need, and are developing a collective purchasing scheme to give residents access to good value renewable technologies such as solar panels. Transitioning to a low carbon economy is also an important opportunity to create green jobs. We're working with the Retrofit Academy to upskill installers and energy advisors so they can provide those services to local people and businesses. And residents often ask us, don't they, often comment, particularly when we've got large housing developments, why aren't all new homes built in a sustainable way? Why aren't there solar panels on every roof? Now, of course, if the Conservative government hadn't scrapped the last Labour government's policy of zero carbon homes by 2016, they would be. We aren't waiting on this government. Our own council-owned housing company, New Place, is building homes to high standards with solar PV, EV charging, air source heat pumps, high levels of insulation, well above current building regulations. And the residents that live in those homes will be saving hundreds of pounds on their energy bills. We've published our climate change supplementary planning document, and that will be pulled in to the local plan to push developers to meet those higher standards ahead of government actually changing national building regs. On transport, as well as decarbonising our own fleet, we'll be installing 140 electric vehicle charging points across the borough, and we continue to invest in walking and cycling network to encourage active travel that's good for our health as well as good for the planet. Our solar farm at Wheatlows, one of 9 solar farmers in the borough, performed better than expected last year, producing enough energy to power 12 500 homes. And we'll continue to look for renewable energy generation on our own estate, and we've commissioned feasibility studies to look at some of those potential projects. We continue to support businesses with grants and advice, everything from eco grants to our high street shops, and also working with our manufacturing sector to create the Telford Sustainability and Energy Cluster, and those businesses are really driving forward that transition to net zero. The report also updates our work to become the first plastic-free borough in the country. Some of our towns, Newport, Wellington, Madeley, are now officially plastic-free towns, and other areas are well on the way towards that status. This council has accelerated our own work to remove single-use plastics from our organisation following the necessities of the COVID pandemic, which did mean we had to reintroduce some single-use, but we're now back on track with that. The Borough Climate Change Partnership continues to bring businesses, charities, community organisations, schools and town and parish councils together to drive down emissions across the whole borough. Last week we held our annual Climate Change Partnership Conference with an inspirational keynote speech from Rob Hopkins, the co-founder of Transition Towns. And I think all the partners went away really enthused and ready to carry on this work. So the report includes the updated action plan. This is kept under constant review to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. We're also working with Environment Scrutiny in a cross-party way to develop an adaptation plan that allows us to improve resilience to the changes that we're already seeing in our climate. So this report shows that action on climate change is being delivered across every part of our organisation. I mean, it touches every part, and I'm really proud of the fact that our staff teams have embraced this in every department. It's at the heart of everything we do, and whilst there are challenges ahead, doing things differently offers opportunities for our area and our residents. We won't delay, we'll take that opportunity, and I move the recommendations.
Thank you, Caroline. Is there a seconder? Councillor Middleton. Does anyone want to comment on the report? Councillor Middleton.
Yeah, I really welcome this. It's fantastic, and obviously from a health perspective, any extremities in weather have an impact on people's health and well-being, whether it's the heat, people are, people who are taking medication, that can make a difference to their health, the health conditions, and also being able to go out, so whether it's too hot or too extremely cold, it creates isolation, it affects people's well-being, doesn't it? So any work that we're doing to improve that, it's really important. And I think when it comes to things like this, people don't think or look into the issue enough about the things that it can impact in our communities, and certainly around health, this is a big one. So yeah, thank you.
Anyone else got a comment?
Yeah, I've got I think it's great what's been achieved so far. I think there's £4 million put in the capital investment programme. It's great to see new place reinvesting money back into existing homes to lower bills for residents and to reduce carbon emissions. However, it is just the start, and we really need central government to step up and improve funding for local governments.
Thank you, Nathan. I'd just like to add, if you read through the report, there's some good stories in there showing that the move away from traditional electricity and gas costs is actually saving businesses, residents, communities money. So it's a good thing to do. So as Caroline says, why Wishes decided to make that announcement is not really good for our future as we try and address climate change, but also if you read the stories, other people's futures, and our investment that we're doing shows our commitment. And now, as Nathan says, we need the government to step up and give their commitment too. Bill, do you want to comment?
Andrew first.
I certainly welcome everything the council can do and is doing at the moment on this. It is a small contribution, but it's an important contribution, and it shows the way forward. So I've got a question around this really, is if we included the requirement for peak source pumps, etc., into future housing developments, how enforceable is that? Or do we need national change to policy to do that? Because we know with developers, they'll get planning permission, they'll come back to this authority and say, that the whole development's not viable because of affordable housing. And there's certainly, if we insisted on this or started to try and enforce that, we'd be facing the same sort of argument.
Shall I come back to that? So, yeah, what we need is national building regulations change. So like I said, that there was a move to do that that should have come in 2016. that's got scrapped. The Future Home Standard, which is due to come in 2025, isn't as strong as what the Labour government had proposed, but it's better than how we're building houses now. I'm concerned that that'll get pushed, if I'm honest. That'll get pushed back. In terms of our own policies, one of the, I suppose, issues with the planning system, and I'm not a planner, so forgive me if sort of Gavin starts looking at me for getting something wrong here, but my understanding of it is one of the challenges is that issue of viability, that it's almost, there's no other industry I can think of where it's effectively written into law you can make 20% profit. You're guaranteed your 20% profit. And that's how our plan is, you know, that unfortunately is kind of how things are set up at the moment, you know. So I think there is something, and one of the things I'd like us to do is really look at that viability issue, and I think that the more we have in our local plan, the stronger it is, and the more we can make the case that actually it is viable to do this. And I think the fact that we're doing it with New Place, we're setting that as an example to show that it can be done, it can be viable, and it can make a difference. And in terms of affordability, I know there's a bit of a debate happening now about should affordability just be about your rental or your purchase price, because actually at 80%, isn't it? I think in a lot of places that's not affordable still. Or should it be about actually the running costs of your property and how your living cost day-to-day once you're in it? And so again, that might be an area that whether we can explore that locally ahead of government, I'll be guided by the planners, but I think that again is another opportunity to think about that ongoing viability, to really make that case. And the frustrating thing is house builders, you know, sort of from 2006 onwards, we're gearing up. They were gearing up to actually build more sustainable homes, you know, that had low energy consumption, that had, you know, that fabric first approach to sustainability. And a bit like the car industry that kind of, you know, criticised Rishi for his changes in policy. The house building sector did that then. You know, they were geared up for a change, and then suddenly the rug was pulled. But of course they'll stop because they all want to make the profit. Nobody wants to give someone else you know, an opportunity to undercut them, so the standards drop back down again. So we do need government, but putting this into our local plan, I think, is also really important.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd agree with that. It is frustrating when, even if we put it in our local plan and we wish to have these standards in housing, developers can wheedle their way out of it because of national planning guidelines. And the government are in a bit of a shambles. I looked at the latest, you know, wind turbines at sea, which has been a real success actually for Britain, except in the last round where we offered up to develop more, nobody would, because the pricing structure wasn't going to work, so nobody would. And of those that are currently being built and are ready to tap into the network, they can't, because the network isn't ready to take them on. The pylons aren't there, the underground cables aren't there, and you think, how can you be so disorganised? Your opening comments are so important as well about where we are with the weather now. This 1.5 degrees is supposed to be, we can't go above that. For 4 months this year in the world, we've already gone above it. And scientists are really getting worried. We've got a weather forecast today in Scotland. And people think, oh, well, it's in Scotland. It could be here, couldn't it? A red one. It's a danger to life and flooding. Now, in old school money, because I can't get my head around 250 mil, 10 inches of rain. You can't imagine that in one day, can you? And in parts of Greece this year, they had 31 inches of rain. 31 inches of rain in a day. And it's really out there. This is probably one of the most important things on the agenda today, the environment. It really is critical. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Thank you very much. We move now to the Armed Forces Covenant Annual Report.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. This administration has made a very clear commitment to support the borough's armed forces community, to recognise the commitment and sacrifices which they have made. Our Armed Forces Covenant Partnership drives this commitment, and this report provides an overview of what the partnership has focused on delivering. I want to draw out just a few examples of this excellent work. Raising awareness by encouraging organisations to sign Armed Forces Covenants and commit to supporting our armed forces community. The number of signatories increases each year, and this year the partnership supported Great Dorley Parish Council to launch the UK's first armed forces friendly high street following a mass covenant signing event. This initiative is being rolled out to other parts of the borough. Supporting the mental health and well-being of armed forces community is an important part of the work of the partnership. Some of the activities the partnership has some support include veteran cafes to offer the early intervention service to those who are experiencing poor emotional well-being and mental health, and models for heroes groups which promote the use of model making as a therapeutic activity, a veterans football club hosted by AFC Telford United. Earlier this year, Veterans Trail was opened by Her Majesty the Queen Consort, providing a dedicated space for veterans to create a lasting tribute for their service. The Council itself has been recognised as a gold employer for veterans by the Ministry of Defence, and this year has launched an internal Armed Forces staff network. It is well understood there is a reluctance from our Armed Forces community to ask for help. To enhance our outreach work, an outreach worker has recently been appointed who himself is a veteran and understands the challenges that veterans often face. Finally, moving forward to build a yet more capacity, we are working to recruit veteran volunteers to enable us to reach even greater numbers. Cabinet asked to approve the report's recommendations.
Thank you, Rogers. A second, Paul, would you like to say something?
Yeah, it's a good report, thank you, and all the hard work that goes into supporting our veteran community, which is large in Telford and Wrekin, as you know. A couple of things that I'd want to highlight is the Calm Cafes, which I think are really, really positive and spreading across the borough, which is really positive as well. And seeing and talking to the veterans at those places is really it's inspiring actually at times, because they're actually dealing with some really difficult issues that are linked to their service to this country, and we must never forget that. So I think it's really positive and welcome it, and glad to see that we have a veteran actually being appointed as a support worker, which will also help as well.
Ellie?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's a fantastic report. I mean, the health and well-being of veterans is vitally important. I think, they're going to feel detached from the community. They've been in service, and it's about helping them reconnect with our communities in a way that works for them, and making sure that they, all those barriers to access to services, it's difficult. You can't just put people into normal mental health services that have been into service and expect them to connect into that. So it's making sure that it's got that equity to it, I think, and making sure that we are listening to what it is they need and what support is helpful to them, really. So it's good to see that they're embracing the Calm Cafes for the veterans, and that we're listening to what they need, because we owe a debt to them. So I think it's important we continue to do that. This is really, really good, so well done everyone.
Caroline?
Yeah, I mean, this gender up to now in this cabinet meeting has been about kind of big spatial stuff, hasn't it? It's stuff that does, as we've demonstrated in the reports, does come down to actually affecting people's lives and helping support people in their daily lives. But this is obviously a very specific report about a particular, group of our residents and their families, and it is so important. And I think for me, it demonstrates, what we say about ourselves as an organisation, that we protect, care, and invest, and we are caring for our veterans and their families. And I just wanted to kind of read out the sort of quote in 4.9 from the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme Gold Awards, where it was said, Telford and Wrekin Council have got it cracked. They've reached a position where advocacy has become part of their DNA, not only through supply chain advocacy, but also mentoring, as they're supporting Great Dorley Town Council to develop their advocacy, and also mentoring Telford Mind to the DRES Silver Award. That is truly exemplar behaviour, and I think all credit to everyone involved in this, both within the council and the partners that we work with, that we take this very seriously when we want to support our veterans and their families.
I'll just add, me and Paul went to visit a Calm Cafe with the Shadow Armed Forces Minister, and to listen to those stories of, you know, it's intergenerational here. There's older veterans and younger veterans, and they're talking about their experiences and they're sharing that. And there's also that support that sometimes people are so socially isolated, and they come there and they get that other support, not just from the support workers, but from work, just talking to each other about that. And they're really special things. And I think, you know, it is an agenda that this council's had for a number of years of pushing that, what we do for the armed forces and their veterans, and we continue to do that. We always want to do more, and we always want to do what support we have, because, you know, they've been through an awful lot, a lot of these people, and that support mechanism is needed for them. So it's a really great agenda, and thanks for bringing it up, you know, telling us about our annual report, and, you know, keep striving to do more, Raj. Any comments, Andrew?
Yeah, it is a sacrifice, isn't it, where people put themselves forward to do that. I mean, for us, it's quite unimaginable what they've seen, what they've done, and what's happened to them. So to give this sort of support to veterans, I think is absolutely essential. I'd like to congratulate the council on what it's done around that. As I say, it is a sacrifice that people put themselves forward on, and we should do everything we can to help deal with the aftermath and the fallout of that.
Yeah, my deputy leader's a veteran, and he welcomes all the initiatives that the local authority does. So thank you for this report. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Okay, me and Lee have got to leave now. Over to you, Nathan.
Just wait for him to leave. Okay, morning everyone. Yeah, on behalf of Lee Carter, I'd like to present the update on the Marches LEP agreement. So, good morning. I'm seeking support of Cabinet to establish a joint committee with Shropshire and Herefordshire councils to oversee, manage and distribute the assets of the Marches Local Enterprise Partnership. This comes as a result of a decision by the government to cease funding LEPs and for those functions to be transferred to local authorities. We, along with the other authorities, have already indicated to the LEP that we intend to follow the government's guidance and ensure the transfer of resources, assets and responsibilities. The paper sets out the framework for the joint committee and how it will work in partnership with the Local Enterprise Partnership Board to establish an orderly work programme. Failure to proceed down this route could well mean government intervention. I would like to place on record our appreciation of the work of the LEP. It has been a difficult and uncertain few months, but the legacy it leaves across the Marches is outstanding. In these uncertain times, I also think it is important to reaffirm this Council's commitment to support the creation of new jobs, investment into infrastructure and creation of opportunities to local communities. Telford and Wrekin Council has a strong track record of delivering economic growth, including tens of millions of pounds worth into regeneration of our town, investing millions through our Pride in Our High Street schemes, delivering over 4,300 new jobs through the Council's £50 million growth fund investment and the Telford land deal, and marking a real step change in provision of skills through our new digital skills hub planned with Telford College and Harper Adams at Station Quarter. The Council's business support team have dealt directly with over 700 investment inquiries, 23,000 business inquiries, and have attracted over £110 million of external grant funding for local companies in recent years. That commitment will not change as a result of this. I move the recommendations. And have any comments, please, or questions? Raj? No? Seconded. Paul? Any comments? Andrew?
Yeah, I would if I can. We were responsible for setting the LEP up. This authority was the lead authority on doing that. I had some thoughts about it at the time. I wasn't particularly in favour of those sort of delivery vehicles to affect an area. However, it was the way the world was going, so we did. And looking back at it, it has had quite an effect, and it's been reasonably successful, I think, in providing facilities. However, I would personally much rather see those functions return to local control, as long as we get the funding that goes with it. That'll be the key with this. So, a fond farewell to the LEP, but I think really we should now be driving for the future to see what we can put in place with this and secure the funding that goes with it.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And I think from that, I think if we had greater clarity from government, we might be able to make a decision.
Well, I was trying not to be political, of course, but governments of whatever hue tend to be much the same.
Right, been seconded. All those in favour, please. Okay, thank you. And that's the last item on the agenda, so I'm happy to close the meeting. Thank you all for attending today.